Hello and welcome to the Alpine Valley School podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gallivan. This is the 30th episode of the Alpine Valley School podcast. You can find show notes for this episode at alpinevalleySchool.com/podcast/EP30 for episode 30. After this episode, the podcast will be taking a short break for the holiday season. We'll return in the new year with more great stories to share. Today's episode is entitled Make Your Mark. I recently had the opportunity to sit down and talk with an Alpine Valley School graduate named Keith Kiernan, who is making his mark both figuratively and literally on the larger world. Keith came to Alpine Valley School after he and his family tried a multitude of schools, both mainstream and alternative, and found that nothing fit. Finally, they decided to try something really radical, a Sudbury school. I'll let Keith tell you the rest himself.
So I am a tattoo artist, and I've always been an artist. I know that everyone would remember at the school that I would be drawing pretty much 98% of my time. Yeah, I've been doing that most of my whole life, so I really just was always wanting to be an artist in some way. Just didn't know how yet until more opportunity came my way. After I graduated, I've always known that I wanted to be or interested in tattooing. At first, I wanted to be like an animator or a comic artist because I drew a lot of comic characters and anime and stuff like that. When I came across tattooing, there was an artist that was actually his daughter went to the school, and she was a lot younger than me at the time. But he would take his daughter to the school, and he and I would kind of have conversations sometimes. But when I really kind of delved into it and asked more questions about it, I ended up going to another shop and kind of got hired on just with some crappy drawings that I did. And I have been consistently professionally tattooing for the past few years, and I've been tattooing or apprenticing since 2009 after I graduated. I get a lot of positive feedback. I've been getting some nice reviews online. They just really appreciate the experience, and they kind of just give it back online sometimes. Got a really nice one on Instagram recently, and it was just a walk-in, but she just appreciated how much time I put into designing it, and then how quick it was to tattoo. I think that it's also the work ethic, the appreciation for it in this day and age where tattooing has become so viral that a lot of people get into it kind of easily. And I don't know, when I got into it professionally, officially, on my own, it made me have to, step back and really, know my limits and also know my abilities. And the more I progress, the more, so is my personality of appreciating my clients and how I treat them. I mean, I wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing without them in my chair or with their support, so I see it like that, they give me my livelihood and what I love doing. So of course I have to respect them. I just like being able to do that for people and making them have something that they're proud to have on their skin rather than, walk around with stuff that they have to stare at and are unhappy with. And I've been doing cover-ups and fix-ups for people. So even in public schools, I had a lot of learning disabilities, but it's also because I'm just very visual and I just didn't learn how other kids learned in public school. So I was very distracted. So I was drawing anyway. I would draw in the margins of tests. Teachers appreciated it, but I didn't do my assignments very well. And my mom was frustrated with how I was being taught. She wanted me to be successful, and she knew that she was also frustrated with teachers because teachers were treating me like crap. There's some alternative schools I went to before AVS that the kids would have to be put in a corner and treated like an animal. But, everyone's different, and no one's supposed to be a part of this locked-in system of learning a one system, one way. We're all different minds and different personalities. And I think that's what I appreciated about AVS is that it allowed me to learn how I learned when I have to do something in order to learn it. I have to watch it and I have to experience it in order to learn. I can't just take notes or read things and then have a memory of it and then, try to repeat it in a test. I actually have to experience it and see it. And that's really how I learned a lot of art history is that I had to study it and watch documentaries and, things like that. It actually kind of helped me in the end when I got into college, knowing what kind of learner I am. I applied it to my college studies. What used to be absolutely bizarre to me when I was in public school, actually, the way they were teaching it, it felt like I was learning another language or another system that I just had to decode, and I had to do it a certain way. And because I wouldn't do it a certain way, it would be wrong and I'd get a F, But if you explore things and try to learn different methods, it'll help. And there's no shame in that. And I think that's what I disagree with about the public schools, is that they shame kids because they don't learn it a certain way, or that they don't know something at a certain grade level. And it shouldn't be about that. Like, I've always been kind of introverted too, and I've always felt like not like a part of some of the groups. But there's a lot of other friends I made that appreciated me, and I appreciate it. And we still talk sometimes, and I think of them as almost like little sisters and big brothers. And I kind of miss talking to some of the people from AVS that I went to school with, and they're all grown up now. I think I met a lot of good friends. It's a lot like a family because it's such a small student body. I think that however people depart and are also joined together, and it's kind of just part of the journey. And I think that's kind of what AVS is. It's like it's a part of your life that you just experience for a time and then depart from. I think it's important to be like, especially because things are changing now, and it's not about just being like the white picket fence kind of people. We're not. America's not like that. We're all versatile. We're all supposed to be a multicultural country, and I think that's what I appreciate about AVS too, is that it was very multicultural and very about community, and looking back and seeing what I should have done differently, like how everyone else did it, I probably wouldn't be the same person now. It made me a stronger and well-rounded person. I think in the end, though, I'm just appreciative of where I'm at now because I didn't give up.
If you want to see more of Keith's artwork, you can follow his Instagram page. There's a link to it in the show notes. Show notes for this episode can be found at alpinevalleySchool.com/podcast/EP30 for episode 30. If you or someone that you know has a child that is struggling in traditional school, consider sending them this podcast or any of the other resources available on our website, alpinevalleySchool.com. You can also find Alpine Valley School on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by searching for our name. Individuals can schedule an informational tour via our convenient online scheduling system by visiting alpinevalleySchool.com/tour. As I mentioned before, the podcast will be taking a short break over the holiday season. A new episode will air after the first of the year. Thank you for listening. I'm Mark Gallivan. This is the Alpine Valley School podcast, and we'll be back again in a few weeks with more stories of real learning for real life.